Today we are talking about the well-known New Year bird koha, which is known as the cuckoo. The flowering of Erabadu flowers, singing of the cuckoo and reaping harvest are natural effects of the New Year season, which is known as the Bak Maha or New Year in April. However, the environmentalists have stated that this year there was a high singing of cuckoo. It is because of that we discuss about this subject. The advent of the New Year is announced to us prior to all others by the cuckoo with its singing of koho koho. The environmentalists say that the cuckoo population has increased compared to last year. The cuckoo sings in search of his companion. The male cuckoo is black. The female cuckoo is brown and it has white spots on its body. The cuckoo lays its eggs in the nests of the crows. The crows, thinking that the eggs are crow's eggs, and safeguard it until it hatches. The crow comes to know about the cuckoo eggs only after the young ones starts crying. After that, the crows chase out the young cuckoos from its nests. The cuckoos have succeeded in increasing its population for centuries. The cuckoo and the crow are identical, similar, but the crow is fatter than the cuckoo. The environmentalists say that the atmosphere in Sri Lanka is very much suitable for the cuckoos, which can be seen only in one season. Environmentalist attorney at law Jagath Gunawardena said that the singing of the cuckoo does not take place in the middle of the month of April at all the times. However, this year it took place from the 12th to 16th of April, and it was increased on the 14th and 15th of April. The lack of clouds and full moon allows people to hear the cuckoos singing the whole night. President Hassan Rouhani said that the UNESCO should prepare the ground for moderation as a world free from violence. The world today is in need of peace and stability. Hassan Rouhani was speaking to Tehran last Tuesday during the visit of UNESCO Director General Irina Bokova to Iran. He said the first and the most important step in the campaign against violence, extremism and terrorism is a cultural move, and the UNESCO can play a valuable role in this concern. Hassan Rouhani added UNESCO should be more active and through media cooperation with many countries and promoting the culture of dialogue and moderation. It should pave the way for establishment of the violence-free world. The president voiced happiness with presence of the Palestinian envoy in the UNESCO board and said it is a move in line with peace. He said the Middle East has over recent years been suffering from violence, extremism and terrorism, and we need to restore peace and stability to the region through mutual cooperation. The president referred to efforts by certain powers to distort cultural identity of nations and said efforts for domination of Western culture over other countries is a wrong mentality because culture and identity of nations give way to stability of countries on the one hand and on the other consolidate social and family relationship. The big powers managed to some extent to take initial steps towards destruction of natural culture of countries. However, the reality is that they cannot replace it with their own culture, and the UNESCO has the duty to defend independent cultures and identities. He also referred to problems facing the developing states in the field of science and said, unfortunately, in today's world, we are witnessing a sort of scientific apartheid, and countries possessing sophisticated technology are not ready to transfer their technological know-how to other countries. He said Iran is ready to have close interactions with the UNESCO in campaigns against cultural poverty and promotions of education. President Hassan Rouhani said the UNESCO chief's visit to Iran is harbinger of stronger cooperation between the international body and Iran in scientific and cultural domains. Meanwhile, Bokova said for her part that the Iranian president's proposal to the UN General Assembly was highly valuable and fully consistent with the charter and goals of the UNESCO. She also referred to the UNESCO's heavy responsibility for cultural interactions among nations. UNESCO also agrees with Iranian president's idea that degradation of national cultures of nations leads to tension. She said the UNESCO is confronting extremism and violence in the world as a big threat to human beings, trying to define the importance and value of dialogue and peaceful coexistence to world nations based on a global program. She praised Iran's success in educating young generations, especially girls, and said the UNESCO welcomes links with Iranian scientific centers and to this end has extended extensive support to a scientific center in Isfahan. Bokova added that the UNESCO will strive for South-South cooperation and opening ways for cooperation between North and South states, believing that the youth should be provided with an opportunity to safeguard and persevere cultural and scientific progress of the developing states. She voiced happiness with her visits to Bam, Isfahan and Shiraz and acquaintances with the rich culture of Islamic Iran, and said at a time when majority of the world peoples are in darkness and ignorance, Iranian engineers and thinkers in light of their exceptional intellect have created works highly appreciated by other nations. She also appreciated the Iranian president's choice of appointing a well-educated and efficient ambassador to the UNESCO. The International Horticultural Exposition 2014 kicked last Friday in Qingdao, East China's Shandong province, featuring the theme From the Earth, for the Earth. The expo is the fourth one held in the Chinese mainland, followed those held in the cities of Kunming in 1999, Shenyang 2006 and Xi'an 2011. The expo, which was built in the Bagui Mountain Forest Park, covers an area of 241 hectares, equivalent of the area of 330 football fields. There are 100 gardens from 40 countries and regions where the visitors can enjoy various marine plants, rare plants, classical arts, and distinctive architectures, as well as scientific innovations. The expo will last until October 25th. A 7-year-old lion has recently given birth to 5 live cubs at the Beijing Wildlife Park. The 5 lion cubs born on April 15 and 16 just opened their eyes. The lioness is very protective of her cubs, raising an alert when anyone approaches her babies. The experienced mother has been taking very good care of them, as she isn't a first-time mom, although not of quintuplets like this time. It's very rare for a lioness to give birth to 5 cubs. Normally, the number is 2 to 4. Chen Hui, manager of the Animal Management Department of the Beijing Wildlife Park, says the lioness here has a strong sense of motherhood. She's good at breeding cubs. Lionesses like her that can raise up all 5 cubs are very rare, maybe 1 out of 100. It's expected that the cubs will make their debut to visitors in 2 months, and they will not be weaned until September this year. And several days after the lion cubs were born, a white lion cub was born at the park. The cub, whose mother refused to feed it, is being fed by a dog mother which recently had a litter of her own pups. Staff members brought one of the dog pups along to the park to keep mother and cub company. Gu Yinghua, feeder of cubs, says the female dog has become a mom recently, so she has brought to be a mom for the cub, and her pup was also brought along as well. According to the wildlife park, 6 young lions born last year have grown up healthy and have met with visitors this year. However, the park asks visitors not to take photographs or feed the animals because they are still underage and will be frightened by the noise. Hundreds of people dressed as feudal warriors have reenacted a 16th century battle in Yamanashi Prefecture. About 800 people were divided into 2 teams to represent the forces of Takeda Shingen and Yusegi Kenshin. About 40,000 spectators gathered to watch the event. They cheered and applauded when the participants reenacted famous scenes from the battle. A man who took part said the enemy forces were coming from every direction and it was very exciting. A woman participant said she is really tired, but the experience was very enjoyable. Master timber house builders share their trade secrets. The city of Kyoto is famous for the kind of timber frame building known as kyomachiya. The number of craftsmen capable of building these structures has diminished in recent years, but a few young carpenters are trying to keep the tradition alive. Horning the blade of a hand plane is a fundamental skill that a Japanese carpenter must master. The blade will be taken through 3 grades of whetstone to the point that it reflects light like a mirror. Sharpened and adjusted correctly, the cut that it makes leaves a sheen on the surface of the wood that is one of the hallmarks of Japanese carpentry. Naito Tomohiro is a young craftsman who owns an architectural joinery company. He explains that carpenters are only as good as their tools. Set squares, chisels and planes are central to Japanese carpentry. It is a profession that depends upon blades, so carpenters take extreme care of their tools. His workshop is located in the mountains that surround Kyoto City, although he still has an office in the Gun district that he inherited from his father. He is a descendant of Naito Eisuke, who came to Kyoto from Fukui Prefecture at the beginning of the 19th century. Eisuke completed an apprenticeship and went on to establish the Gion Naito Komuten, the company that his great-grandson now runs. As Naito Tomohiro explains, he is the fifth-generation carpenter in the family line. The word carpenter, daikusan in Japanese, embraces a range of different disciplines. Naito's work is probably best described in English as architectural joinery. He explains that his company's main line of work is in the construction of timber-framed housing and kyomachiya in particular. The term kyomachiya refers to a traditional style of architecture that has developed in Kyoto over hundreds of years. Machiya are generally two-storied buildings, occasionally three. Characteristics of machiya include timber frames that rest on a stone foundation, walls made of earth and straw plastered onto a bamboo frame, and wooden lattices on the exterior. The project that Naito is currently working on is the reconstruction of an old machiya originally built during the 1920s. Although the craftsman set levels using laser technology and used a range of modern power tools, building methods and materials follow centuries-old traditions. The joinery that connects the structure follows established conventions. Joists are fixed with wooden pegs rather than nails or bolts, and traditional materials like cypress wood, bamboo, earth and straw are integral to the structure. At 36 years old, Naito Tomohiro is an accomplished craftsman. Although working with a designer, he draws the schematics from which all the other craftsmen works. He also controls the budget, manages the construction schedule, and takes care of administration as well as hands-on involvement with pretty much the whole construction process. He says an apprenticeship is always very tough, but people who have become carpenters, craftsmen seem full of life. They love the wood that they work with. Naito personally feels a great sense of pride in what he does. The skills that he and his colleagues have mastered are vital to the conservation of Kyoto's architectural heritage. According to Shinoshara Shoten Limited, a company that manufactures roofing joists, the total number of carpenters in Japan in 1995 was 761,822. In 2010, they say the figure was 397,400. Thousands of people recently attended a ceremony to mark the opening of the tourist season in Kamikochi, a gateway to Japan's northern Alps. Kamikochi is a plateau in the city of Matsumoto in Nagano Prefecture. It's about 1,500 meters above sea level. About 3,000 people attended the opening festival on last Sunday at the foot of the Kappabashi Bridge, which straddles the Azusa River. A group of local apple horn players marked the start of the season with a performance. They prayed for the arrival of many visitors and for their safety. Tourists took photographs of themselves with the snow-capped Hotaka mountain range in the background, and others sat on the riverbank and painted pictures. One visitor said it was ideal weather to go mountain climbing, and he was looking forward to it. Kamikochi Community Chief Toshiteru Kamijo says he hopes many tourists will visit the area and enjoy the beautiful alpine environment.